So I will continue to be very grateful to him for the opportunity. Let me also say on record that I am probably the first person that I know in history who has had, at one point, 2015/2016, the singular privilege of one serving as Group Managing Director of NNPC, Minister of State Petroleum, President of OPEC, President of Apple, President of GCF, all at the same time. And those would never have been possible but for the opportunity that he gave me to serve. But what that meant was that I was carrying both national responsibilities and very challenging global responsibilities all at the same time. Now, let's see what we've tried to do. First of all, in the upstream, we have a catalog of successes that we've made. We've grown reserves by over 600 million barrels, rising from 37.2 million barrels, from 36.18 million barrels to 37.2 million barrels. So we've grown those reserves just in 2.5 years. And the gas side, we've been able to grow gas reserves by 5 trillion cubic feet, from 199.09 trillion cubic feet to from 192 trillion cubic feet to 199.09 cubic feet of gas in 2 years. We have been able to discover so many new fields. Owowo, for example, is one of the very big fields that has come up with reserves in excess of 1.5 million barrels. We've been able to grow rigs activity. When we joined, the rig activity in the country was about 2 to 3 rigs that were operating in Nigeria at the time in 2015. As of 2017, we had about 21 rigs in operation, up from about 15 rigs in operation in 2016. And hopefully, with the big FPSOs that are beginning to look like there are possibilities in Nigeria, we expect to see a lot more rig activity in Nigeria. Crude oil activity has been sustained at a fairly large level. Like I said, we started at a point it was about 800,000 barrels. We've grown it to about 2 million barrels. We should be doing more, but for the cyclical difficulties in terms of pipeline disruptions, occasional pipeline disruptions, occasional closures for purposes of maintenance. But we're averaging about 2 million barrels, and about 300 of that is roughly condensate. The Egina FPSO hopefully sailed off, hope to be commissioned. I understand they've been given a target date of 31st December. I'm knocking on wood on that one. If that happens, that's an additional 150 to 200,000 barrels addition to production. So really, by the end of January, we should have grown daily production back to the 2.2 million barrels that was always our signpost. That would be a big feat, given the difficulties we have. Now, but in addition to that, there are 30 other field works that have been approved by DPR, which have a capacity of adding about 900,000 barrels per day production. So you add that to that, we expect really that all things being equal, if we're working as hard as we should, by the end of 2019, we ought to be averaging about 2.5 million barrels production. That will be the first time in the history of this country that has been done. Now we have a couple of potential FIDs that are in the pipeline. Still working the ropes. Bonga, Southwest, obviously, is a big one for us. We're hoping that FID will come in early first quarter next year. We have Zaba, still a few things to be dealt with, but if we succeed in completing all the processes that we need to, that's another big FID. Those two have potentials of throwing in close to 700,000 barrels of potential production into this country. So if we work hard enough by the end of 2019, 2020, we ought to begin to see Nigerian production rise from the usual cyclical 1.8 to 2 million barrels up to between 2.5 and 3 million barrels. That really is the target that I had set in 2015 when I was appointed. So I think we need to clap for that. All that is due to the resilience of the president. In the gas area, we have done tremendous work. Gas is one area where we also say we a gas territory, but nobody does anything about Nigeria being a gas territory. We just we sing it, but we don't act it. Well, this government has acted it. Gas production, quite frankly, is risen by about 1 billion cubic feet per day, rising from 7.16 billion to 8.3 billion. And the effect of that has been a 16% increase in terms of gas to power supplies, which is one of the reasons why we've seen some major improvements in the gas supply situation in the country. I'm one of those who believe that if infrastructure can be addressed in this country sufficiently, we ought to be able to power every Nigerian village. And we must set that as a basic requirement for this country if we need to move forward. To push this, we've brought out the Nigerian gas policy apart from the petroleum policy. And the gas policy, for those of you who have had time to look at it, is a very comprehensive document that sets out the parameters for growth for gas, how we meet our local needs, what sort of infrastructures are required, various segments of business opportunities that exist in those. That was passed by the Federal Executive Council, and that is what is driving that. We're hoping that relying on that, we'll be able to drive investments into the fertilizer, petrochemicals, methanol, and LPG area. LPG is one area where we've done some very good work. We've seen a 600% increase in LPG growth over the last 2 years, from about consumption is about 420,000 metric tons, which is about 600% increase over the last 6-7 years. So that's a very major movement on gas. But in addition to that, we have really not touched, we're still in the outskirts of gas development, gas home delivery development. So one of the things we're doing is we've launched what we call an LPG penetration program, which the ministry and a setup has been put in, I think it's Petroleum Equalization Fund, if I'm not mistaken. A desk has been put in there, a division has been created. And the whole idea is to create whatever is required to drive and triple the level of gas LPG consumption in this country over the next 1 to 2 years. So it's something we're paying very grave attention. We've gone to those who produce gas cylinders. We're working with them. Anybody who has a gas cylinder, we're working with NCDMB and them to try and provide the necessary financing to grow the opportunity to provide these cylinders. We're looking at gas distributors. We're looking at LPG penetration through other sources other than tankages. So that is an area we need to drive because it's an area that touches the average village woman very quickly, very rapidly, and requires minimal of investment for us to do that. But I continue to say that developing gas infrastructure has been the bane. We've done a few things here. I still think we're touching the outskirts. We've done the OB3 East-West interconnection pipeline. It's been awarded by NNPC. Currently work is going on there. The doubling of the Escravos to Lagos pipeline, the Western Axis, is also continuing. The much more structure changing investment has been the AKK pipeline. But for the first time, this 614-kilometer pipeline, which is taking gas from the south all the way to the north, Ajaokuta, Kaduna. We've ensured that it's private sector driven, not government driven. And this is almost a $3 billion investment. When completed, it will improve gas supplies to these areas by about 3,600 megawatts. So we'll move from current 10,000 that we have to 10,000 just by completion of that pipeline. So it is such a key infrastructural progress that we must pay attention to. In the area of gas flare, because of the President's concern for environmental issues, we have worked very hard to bring down this number. If you remember, in 2016, I made a commitment that we'll try and zero out gas flare by 2020, 10 years ahead of the United Nations set goal parameters of 2030. We're doing very wonderfully in that area. Flare from gas production has reduced from the numbers of 26% that we had now to about 9%. We expect to zero that out, quite frankly, by 2020. As part of this campaign, we have launched what we call the gas flare commercialization program, which is for the first time allowing third parties to get into production facilities and take advantage of capturing gas flare to turn them into refined beneficial commodities. This is the first time this is being done. And what it has done is that it has energized oil companies who hitherto were a bit resistant about this to also begin their own gas flare commercializations. And looking at sort of the returns that I see from this group, it's obvious that a lot of them have now jumped in, began their own processes, coming to justify why they should be allowed to run their own process, provided they can meet the timeline. If we succeed in doing this and suddenly can say to those communities from where we produce gas that we no longer produce gas and flare it and create environmental hazards, we would have done something that nobody has been able to do in this country, and that would be wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to the government completing this process.